on rFactor 2. Delighted that you could join us here from the Sachsenring in what should hopefully be an enthralling penultimate round of the season. We've had such a great run up to this point. We've had so much competition between so many of the drivers. We rock up here to Eastern Germany to what should hopefully be another exciting round of racing. Championships could be won tonight, but nothing is as certain. Delighted that you're here on the P6 YouTube channel. My name is Darragh Thacker, joined as always, now I'm delighted to say, by Ashley Deadman. Ashley, welcome in. This really is looking like it's going to be a good round of racing. Very particular circuit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me once again. Always a delight to be here. And this is actually when you invited me in to join you alongside yourself. This is the circuit that I've been eyeing up the entire season, and it is the penultimate round that we turn to here tonight at the Sachsenring in the Saxony region of Germany. And you can see there on the track map itself, it's 3.6 kilometers, 2.2 miles. And it's sort of a circuit of two halves, which I believe you perfectly phrased last week, Darragh. You've got that first sector, very twisty, turny, up and down as well. The undulations around here are absolutely massive. And then the second half of it, it's sort of a lot of momentum carrying and a bit of sort of sending it through some of these corners to try and maximize your pace and everything such as that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to tonight, and I'm hoping that we're going to get some brilliant action as well.
Yeah, we do anti-clockwise on the circuit. You can see on the screen. It almost looks like the first half from that angle. It almost looked like the first half of that's a bit embryonic, isn't it? With the way, with the all of the turning that you have to do. So much rotation required at the circuit to get the car turned. But in the standings, as I somewhat touched on, we are looking at a tightening championship. Luke Mitchell had a penalty last week, demoted him off the podium from race 1, and it is now putting him at a little bit more risk from a resurgent Callum Cripps after his incredible run over the last few races. That gap now down to 26. Of course, if Luke Mitchell wants to win the championship tonight, that has got to be 44 points. A little bit of work to do to not have to take it to Brands Hatch next week. Gasper Morak is dropping back a little bit, but still in the hunt in P3 on 141, with Alan Axon consistency being his key word, and another good couple of results. 2 P4s last week, keeping him very much in contention, catching up to the leader and only 48 points back. Bobby Vakinov and Antonis Papanopoulos have crossed the 100 mark as they're in the top 6, with Ollie Kayan-Lati, Anton Tomenga, Callum Wilson and Tom Hackett inside our top 10. It's Simon Trebek, Screw Neil and Raider Uhalal our top 13, as Neil and Uhalal have just about crossed the 50 mark before we see the likes of Jordan Osborne and David Zoes, who are a little bit further down. 43 and 40 points for them. Jamie Potts is in P16 with Rob Shorey in P17. Yera Kayea, I should say, in P17. Yaroslav Fies and Sam Butters, George Prieto and John Pound, with Phil Vesterhoff, Paul Amos, Emmanuel Lopez, Jason Taylor and Samuel Newhouse. All of the drivers that have scored some points, all scored some negative points so far this season. So we've got through the formalities. We can get ourselves into qualifying. Not too much longer in the session, but a very interesting lap time there from Callum Cripps. Nearly, well, actually more than a third of a second clearer than anybody else. Luke Mitchell with a lot of work to do down in P7.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be a championship turner like we saw last week, where Callum Cripps won both races, and Luke Mitchell just seemed to be struggling a touch. I'm pretty sure he won both races last week, didn't he? Yes, he certainly did. Yeah, Callum Cripps still on that massive charge that he has been on. And this circuit, I said to, I alluded to it earlier, it's a circuit of two halves, but the key thing with this circuit, Darragh, is you really need to hold that momentum through a lot of these corners. It's a motorcycle circuit, first and foremost, and you don't often see actual four wheels going around it, and that is sort of the nature of the circuit. It leans itself towards motorcycle racing, so it's that kind of aspect that you're looking at that makes it so great for the motorbikes, but for the cars it's a little bit different. You are watching your tyre wear a lot more because you are turning left a total of 10 times through the lap, and there's only 3 to the right. So it's a very different aspect, this circuit, and it's going to throw up a lot of surprises, I would imagine, as well.
Yeah, and not least by the fact that we've got 17 drivers on the circuit. Means we've got slightly less, but also means that pretty much everybody will get points if they finish. If there's a couple of problems off the start and we have a couple of non-finishers, then just getting towards the end of the race will get you some points. So lots to fight for towards the end of the season. And of course, every single championship position is going to be, sought after by these drivers. Butters, though, coming towards the final corners now. Purple through the opening couple of sectors. Not necessarily something we've seen from Sam so far this season. He's not picked up many points. I don't even believe he's got a top 10 so far this season. So this could be a real shocker on the cards. Crosses the line. Sam Butters will stay down in P12. So maybe not having exactly the pace that the Timey Tower was suggesting. But it got me a little bit surprised for a moment there, Match.
Yeah, it shocked me a little bit too, because looking at his current championship standings, he is down in 20th. He's picked up a few points here and there, but nothing sort of alarming. He's sort of been fighting towards that bottom end of the field, but who knows, if he can replicate it again. We're just still riding on board with him here. Let's see how he progresses through this first sector, and when that little line comes up next to his name, let's see what colour it turns as he finds his way through corners 5 and 6, and then this tricky left-hander is 7. You're sort of dancing on the pedals all the way through, trying to find every sort of inch of the circuit and use it to your advantage. He's yellow through that sector then, so clearly down on his fastest, but let's see what he does as qualifying continues, as we jump forward to Kyan Larty, who's currently P3.
Yeah, come around the final couple of corners as well. Purple to the opening couple of sectors. Let's see what Ollie can do through the final turn. Rising up the hill to try and cross the beam. Can he get himself on pole position? He's been near the sharp end a couple of times this season, but not this time. Will stay down in P3. Callum Cripps may have something to say about it, though, as he is rounding the final couple of corners now as well. We've just seen Gasper Marak jumping up into P2 as he comes down into the pit lane. That's the end of his session. Cripps not able to improve, and that's the end of his session. So as drivers start to end their sessions, the one driver we have to watch for is this man, Luke Mitchell, championship leader, down in P8. This is not what we'd expect from the driver who has been leading the championship from, I believe, the third race of the season.
Oh, yeah, he's been leading it very early on, definitely, but he is currently on a good lap here. He's green in the first two sectors, now making his way through the final corner. Got a sharp rise up over the apex there on that tight hairpin corner, and up to the line. Goes 4 fastest. That does give him a good shout there, actually. He's within 3/10 of Callum Cripps now. So, you know, in terms of race pace itself, it's slightly different to the quali. That's going to give him an opportunity at least to score some good points and try and retain this lead going into the final round now.
Yeah, Callum Wilson, one of the last 3 drivers on a lap. You can see them all on the mini-map. Couple come across the line now. Where can Wilson go? Vakinov's gone P6. Wilson steals pole at the end of the session. 24.004. He's taken it by less than half of a tenth. And Callum Wilson popping up when it matters to deliver the pole time here this evening. Kyan Larty will stay P5, but that is one crucial point that will not be going the way of Callum Cripps, and he's going to be feeling a little bit aggrieved, particularly after that great qualifying lap, which put him up into the lead of the session for such a long time, but Callum Wilson pipping him at the end.
Yeah, it's a really good lap there from Wilson, and like you say, of course, Cripps just losing out on that point. I don't think it's going to matter too much in the grand scheme of things, and these guys are teammates as well, which is the interesting thing. So it's quite surprising that he, you know, took that pole away from him. But fair play to him, he has the pace. They're both up there fighting for that top spot. I wonder who's going to come out on top.
Yeah, the two Callums will lead us to green. 1L beating 2 tonight, with Wilson ahead of Cripps as we get ourselves ready to get going for race number 1. Gasman Marak will start in P3 as he tries to keep himself in championship contention. It'll be Luke Mitchell and Ollie Kyan Larty on P4 and 5 with Ollie Vakinov. He's been in the podium positions a few times in the last few rounds, starting for P6. Now, do you want some unlimited esports drivers? I think we do. We've got 4 of them. Temenga, Axon, Osborne and Simon Tribeck, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. They make up rows 4 and rows 5. John Pounds just on the outside looking in terms of the top 10. He's alongside Sam Butters on row number 6. David Zoes, Paul Amos and Jaroslav Fides will start themselves in the points-paying positions, with George Prieto and Antonius Paparinopoulos, after serving his qualifying ban, he will, I believe serving his qualifying ban, if I'm not mistaken, will be starting in 16th and 17th. We'll have to see how that goes for him, and we've seen him come through the field the last couple of weeks, actually, and you wouldn't put it past him doing it again.
No, he certainly wouldn't. He's been really showing some expert racecraft as Papadopoulos, so I can't imagine why he couldn't do it again here. It's one of those circuits that is, like I said earlier, momentum is key, and there are good overtaking opportunities, particularly down towards turn number 1, turn number 3, and turn number 12. They're your best chances to get alongside your rival and make a move. This first corner, probably one of the trickier ones to do it at, simply because there is a bump right in the middle of the apex. It's sort of, as you come over the right-hander, and it just rises slightly and then drops ever so suddenly, and it feels like a bump in the car. I can tell you from, you know, doing laps earlier myself how it feels, and that can throw some of these drivers probably off their game a little bit, and it can cause a bit of understeer if you do catch it at the wrong moment. That's going to be a very good chance for some of these other drivers, and a good corner to watch overtaking happening.
Yeah, it's a nice little circuit, I think, here in eastern Germany. Of course, we're about equidistant from Leipzig, Dresden, and the Czech border. So if we do see Luke Mitchell winning it tonight, he will have he could try and scarper away to Prague, but of course, no border checks anymore between those two countries. Is that a decent one, Ashley? I don't know. I'm proud of that one. I'll be honest.
You can be proud of it, but I don't get it.
Because there's no border checks. Because part of the EU, freedom of
anyway.
Republic border checks. Anyway, sorry, I digress. This should be a good race, but for Luke Mitchell, pressure is definitely on because last few weeks he hasn't had a win since Laguna Seca. He hasn't had a win. You know, a few top fives, Laguna Seca in Istanbul, a couple of podiums at the Nürburgring. Obviously, that penalty back last week at Spa, dropping him down another 10 places. Meanwhile, Callum Cripps has won 6 of the last 7, and the other race he finished in P2. So really has been on a hot streak of form, getting more than 20 points per race. And when you consider that there's 20 points for a win, he's picking up pretty much everything he can at the moment.
Well, he's been needing to do that, and he has done, obviously, as well. And he's even missed a race when you think about the gaps between him and Luke Mitchell. At this present moment, Luke Mitchell, I think I said it last week, he's sort of effectively pulling a bit of a Max Verstappen if you follow Formula One. You know, he won or did incredibly well at the start of this season, and then in this latter half, he's still doing well, picking up great performances and good points, but he's sort of trying to just maintain that lead and not lose too much to the guys around him, and Callum Cripps is doing his best to absolutely try and claw that gap back and really give us a good nail biter for this finish in terms of this round and the next to come at Brands Hatch. I've got a funny feeling we're going to see it as well. If the form of Callum Cripps continues as it has done, I can't see why he can't pick up one win here at least, and at least a podium in the second race as well.
We ripple our way into the opening race of the evening. Of course, got to remember there is going to be a full formation lap, so I won't get too excited too soon. Of course, before we do get going though, in this race, we should thank our sponsors who make this championship possible, not least from Nerd PC and from Phoenix Sim Racing, who do such great work, and also providing us with some fantastic prizes for the drivers, which I know that we're going to get into quite a lot more next week. Great to see the Nerd PC account in the YouTube chat as well. Lovely to have your company. So looking forward to this one. Everybody gridding up, not the biggest of grids, but hey, at a track like this you don't really need too many drivers to keep the race very exciting indeed. One thing that I do quite enjoy about this circuit is it's very higgledy-piggledy, isn't it? I mean, you look at that start-finish straight, there's a very clear slant, isn't there, between where the pit lane is and where the left-hand side, or the right-hand side, as you look at it with the drivers, of where the circuit is. So it really is a circuit that is challenging in, you know, aspects that you don't really get in modern circuits, where there's little bits of undulation. The camber can affect you through the corners when trying to make moves. So this is going to be different to tracks like Spa that we've been to recently. Yeah,
it absolutely is. I mean, I think, to me, personally, this is a circuit that is kind of like a hidden gem in motorsport. You only really know about it or hear about it, one, if you're a MotoGP fan, which I am, but two, if you are a really sort of hardcore racing fan. That's the only time you really sort of hear this circuit name come up. And I think mainly that's down to its history. You know, it was part of Eastern Germany post World War II, and of course kept behind the Iron Curtain for so many years, up of course until 1990, and even up till then it was part of a larger road course, so it wasn't the initial layout you see here. This was only built really from 1996. It's quite a modern circuit in that aspect as well, somewhat of a modern classic you could say, because the way it sort of folds in with the valley itself. It's not built through it, it's built over and around it, which is old school way of building circuits, and I think that just adds to its characteristics, and for me, I absolutely love it here.
Yeah, it is such a fun place to go racing. We can see on this formation lap how first sector, very tight, very compact, and then all of a sudden, it's wide, it's fast, it's committed through some of these higher speed corners. So, a real juxtaposition between the drivers. Here's the grid though for the race. Callum Wilson leads Callum Cripps in P1 and P2. Gasper Marak and Luke Mitchell are on row number 2. We'll see how Ollie Kayanlati can get on with Bobby Vakinov on row 3, with Temenga and Axel on the first two of the Unlimited Esports drivers in P7 and 8. A couple more Unlimited Esports drivers make up row number 5, with Jordan Osborne just ahead of Simon Tribeck. What can those guys do from the back end of the top 10? Don't count out Jump Out and Sam Butters. They could be starting in a reverse grid position. We'll get on to that in a little bit in 11th and in 12th. David Zoes and Paul Amos in 13th and 14th. Yaroslav Vaiz and George Prieto making up row number 8. Just the final driver to make our 17 drivers on the grid. It's Antonis Paprinopoulos, and we'll see what he can do in his Orion Sim Racing team car. Right then, timed that pretty well, it seems, as the drivers are rocking up to the grid. We're going to have 25 minutes put onto the clock for us to see whether Callum Cripps can close that gap further, or whether Luke Mitchell can extend his championship lead at a crucial point in this season. Everybody else just lining up. Paprinopoulos slotting into position as we get ready to get going. It's the penultimate evening of the season. Next week is the finale. 4 more races of 25 minutes are left to go, and we're about to see the lights for the opening race this evening. An incredibly important one for the championship. Wilson on pole, Cripps alongside. As we go green for the first time here in Germany. It's a fantastic start, it seems, from Callum Cripps to try and gain the lead here. Gasper Marak's having a great launch as well through the middle, nearly 3 wide. Indeed, it is 3 wide as they get down towards turn 1. A little bit of rubbing is racing though between all 3 of them as Marak tries to take the tightest inside line and take the lead. Oh, problem at the back though. Believe for Simon Tribeck, as wide goes Callum Cripps. Cripps is off the road and he is dropping down the order. He's gone wide after a little bit of contact with rival Gasper Marak, and Luke Mitchell all of a sudden actually up into P2.
Yeah, well, that's just swung back the other way, hasn't it? Luke Mitchell up into second with Wilson in front taking the lead, and Callum Cripps, he's actually in the final position now, 17th, with Gasper Marak keeping him company. Those two having a little bit of contact through that first sector. It's easy to do around here though. There's a few differing lines, and it is, like I say, all about keeping that momentum. You want to try and hold it as best as you can, and sometimes that does mean kind of nudging your rival a little bit out of the way to see if you can get the better line, but I think there was a bit too much nudging and not enough focusing on getting through the corner and the first lap safely.
Yeah, critical for Luke Mitchell to work his way through, and now he's in a stunningly good position over his championship. His 2 closest rivals find themselves not scoring any points. There's 2 drivers who can't score points, and it's Marak and Cripps at the moment. So really good start if you're Luke Mitchell. Good start as well from Paprinopoulos. He's gone from 17th to 8th. That is an incredible launch off of the line. There was 16 cars in front of them. He's got past 9 already, and he only needs to get past another 2 to ensure that he'll be part of the reverse grid. Of course, the reverse grid could be anywhere between the top 6 to the top 12. And Paprinopoulos would have been hoping, I'm sure, at the start of the race to be thinking about, can I make sure I'm getting in that reverse grid? He's nearly guaranteed to be there already after 1 lap.
Yeah, that is some mighty impressive stuff. I would love to know if he's actually recording his own race just to see his onboard footage of that opener, because 9 positions in a lap, particularly again round this type of circuit, it's almost unheard of. So very impressive stuff indeed, as cars are beginning to settle down already on this lap number 2. Wilson still leads the charge from Mitchell, and Kayanlati there is your top 3. Vakinov still in hot pursuit with Axon behind us. That's wide from Kayanlati. That's going to open a door here then potentially for Vakinov up the inside. This is turn 10. Then you've got the right-hander, waterfall they call it, from MotoGP. It drops down so much. This is a good chance though here at turn number 12 if you can get it quite good on the brakes, but it doesn't look as though anything's going to happen from that. I think Kayanlati can breathe a sigh of relief, but he got lucky with that one.
Yeah, they made their way around the near 500 degrees worth of rotation to the left in that towards the end of that middle sector, or the first sector into the middle sector, inside, line them into the final corner. For that is David Zerwes in the black and yellow car. He may get another position as well because Sam Bass is going off the road a touch at the final corner. That's not going to speed him up. Kai and Larty looking for a move on Bobby Vakinov, as Vakinov has made his way up to P3 after starting in P6. Kai and Larty, of course, P5 to P4 for the time being, and Mr. Consistent Alan Axon, he's looking for yet another top 4. He's right at the back of Kai and Larty for the time being, but you're going to be hard pressed to make a move through this opening sector. But here comes all of that left hand down as you go left, left, left and left some more.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope they've been practicing their best NASCAR impressions, because that's effectively what they're doing, is just constantly turning the wheel to the left hand side, but it does eventually ease off and head back to the right, as we already know. But eternity you're going in that one direction, but either way it's still exciting stuff, because look at this, we got Ollie Kai and Larty having to defend now from Alan Axon, who's right up under the bumper. That's a bit of a slide though, that's going to cost him a little bit of time on this now. Finally the right hander of turn number 11, it's opened the gap ever so slightly, and I think Temenga wants to join in on the party.
Yeah, real nasty slide that was from Alan Axon, losing maybe a little bit of the downforce in the dirty air of the car in front, and Temenga having his own little issues as they make their way in towards the final turn. Osborne and Paparanopoulos are in tow as well as they run their way across the line. What will be the third time in this race, starting lap 4, as you could just see at the front. Luke Mitchell trying to duck and dive his way towards the lead of the race, but Callum Wilson holding firm for the time being. These guys have got a big gap to Bobby Vakinov. I'd be surprised if they try and throw that away by fighting too hard.
Be a bit silly to do that. I think you know, first and foremost, get towards the end of the race in this position you are. You know, you're picking up big points, the pair of you, P1 and P2, especially for Luke Mitchell. You really want to make sure you do get to the end in this position at a minimum, and then of course once you get to the final few minutes, then go at it like hell and really fight for the positions. But yeah, they're doing well so far, and they've got that little buffer, which is nice. As we look back here towards Paparanopoulos with his monumental climb up the grid, 9 positions gained. He's now looking for that 10th position to see if he can take P7 away from Osborne.
Nipping their way through turn number 8. I know I've gone on about this a lot, but you turn right at turn number 3 at Castrol Omega. The next time you turn right is turn 11, which just shows how much left hand down you have to do at this circuit. Paparanopoulos is right on the back of Osborne then as they make their way into the left-hander. Nearly on the inside. Bit of a chop across from Jordan Osborne, preventing the run through the corner, but Paparanopoulos, after his stunning start, hasn't been able to make too much progress. Trying to force the issue now, sticking your nose up the inside, but just about covering it off is Jordan Osborne, as he will be able to stay inside the top 7.
Slamming the door shut on him, isn't he? But you can't slam the door shut on Gaspar Marac, apparently, because he's really trying to force the issue here between him and Prieto for P13. Marac on the inside for that final corner. He's now going to have the outside line then for turn number 1. Coca-Cola curve. I think he's going to probably get it done on the braking itself, though. He's still going to have a bit of work to do. Yeah, Prieto's just about there, but I think Marac definitely had the move. He had the sort of advantage into it. He was miles ahead of Prieto by the time he got to the apex.
Yeah, Prieto's going to have to try and find somewhere else to make that move for what would be P13, but of course Marac is trying to recover his positions after he lost them on the opening couple of corners. Cripps is still a long way off the back, and he is unlikely to be scoring many to any points tonight, but then again he'll of course be bunched up back to the rear of the field for the start of race number 2. As that's going wide, just up in front, is that Paparanopoulos? Or no, it's David Zerwes, I should say, going wide in P9. I thought it was Paparanopoulos. Similar colour scheme on the cars, but Paparanopoulos is a long way in front. Another long way in front is this little battle for the lead of the race. Wilson and Mitchell's going side by side once again, but Luke is arriving to join the party for the battle for the lead. It's Bobby Vakinov who's now right on the tail of Luke Mitchell. That 2.2 second gap has evaporated, and Vakinov right in the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be happy with that, because now there's some more positions up for grabs. It's no longer just a podium for him, it's potential win here for Vakinov, and he can smell it, I'm sure. He'll be absolutely trying his best to get past them. But it is one of those circuits, it's quite difficult to overtake, particularly in the first sector, because it feels like you only really have one racing line that's the fastest way through a lot of these corners, so you really do have to make sure you get your move done and get it done quickly as well in order to not lose out too much time. But Paparanopoulos is going to give it a go anyway through turn 5 and 6 then. He's got it done before we get to this tricky left-hander at turn 7. You're sort of feathering the throttle all the way through before you finally stick your foot hard to the floor, then back on the gas and up towards turn number 8. And oh, there's a big slide though, big slide, and he's in the gravel.
It's a good profile picture with the angle of save for Paparanopoulos, but I don't think he'll be particularly thinking about that. He's more going to be annoyed that he's lost out on his chance to go into P7. Good save, though, from the position that he was in to make sure that he didn't lose even more time, and he should be safe for the time being. The likes of David Zellers. Of course, we will get that reverse grid news to you in about 10 minutes' time to find out how many drivers will be reversed. Will it be just the top 6 with Anton Tenenga being reverse grid pole? Could it even be the top 12? With the likes of John Bowen and Simon Trebek getting themselves towards reverse grid pole, with Gasper Marak coming his way through. Marak, though, knows that with every position that he gains, he has an increased chance of being part of that reverse grid. And it's going to be crucial, because at the moment Luke Mitchell is gaining a lot of points to the point where, as it stands, if Mitchell, Marak and Cripps were all to not score any points in race number 2, Mitchell will be the champion. So a lot of work needs to be done by the two chasers in the championship, because the current championship leader, Luke Mitchell, doing a good enough job for the time being.
Absolutely. I mean, it kind of turned the whole championship on its head in that first couple of corners, in the first sector really. The two rivals to Luke Mitchell both having that massive off. I think they actually collected each other kind of thing, fighting for position, and now they find themselves with Cripps still not in the point, and Marak is slowly picking up some positions and pace as well by the seams of things. He's slowly marching forward. He's got the chance of that reverse grid pole, but it's unlikely there with 12. You really want to sort of be in that top 9. Luckily for him, he can probably see all 3 of those cars in front of him to get there. But as we jump back forward though to Alan Axon, Mr. Consistency then, currently sitting P5. He's chasing Kyan Larty down for that P4, and he's got Temenga keeping him company right up behind his rear bumper as they make their way through the final corner then over the start finish line to begin their lap number 8, and then fire it down towards turn number 1.
And let's see how they can battle this one out. Axon just staying in behind for the time being. As it stands, he would move to just within a couple of points of Gasper Marak for the top 3 in the championship, and to within 11 of Callum Cripps, the top 2, just to show how consistent he's been. Mind you, he's got a grand total of 0 wins this season and only 3 podiums, if it was to say like this, in the first 13 races. So really impressive stuff from Axon to keep it as consistent as he has. But he's got to be careful, because Temenga is not far back, and Anton's had a bit of an up and down season. He's had the podium back at Imola in the opening round, but he hasn't been able to get in the top 5 since. Quite a few P6s, P7s, but just getting so close, not quite close enough. And he wouldn't mind an extra couple of points in his quest to try and get up towards P6 in the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just having a little look at the timing tab. Cripps has now got into a second behind Fides there for 16th, and he's got just under 14 minutes left in this race, so he could still potentially pick up a point or 2, but I think it's going to be very difficult to see any more than that. But you know, jumping back to the front, we've got Wilson here still leading this race from Mitchell, from Vakinov, and these 3 are still fighting it out for the win here with now just over 13 minutes left to go in this race. Maybe the mathematician Darragh Thacker can work out how many laps that roughly is off the top of his head, because I'm sure you'll do it a lot quicker than than me, as we make your way through turn number 1, turn number 2, and then that long right-hander of turn number 3. The next time you're turning right is turn number 11, as we said earlier.
I'm going to be completely honest with you, I have not got a clue how many laps we've got left. It could be anywhere, realistically, because oh no! There's a spin! Paparanopoulos getting, Osborne getting turned over the nose at Paparanopoulos as they run their way through turn number 3. Contact between those two, and Osborne spinning off the circuit, facing the wrong way, but being able to rejoin still in P8. Drama there in the battle for P7, but I'm just going to say, I don't know how many laps we've got left. It doesn't take a lot of time, only about 4 or 5 seconds to dramatically change how many laps that we will have remaining. But yeah, big moments there for Paparanopoulos. He's now up to P7 but it wasn't the cleanest of overtakes. I'm not really sure who was to blame there, if anybody, but yeah, contact regardless, as there's a little bit of wheel-to-wheel action between Luke Mitchell and Callum Wilson for P1 in the race. Mitchell going inside, going outside. He was outside for the penultimate corner. He's looking for the inside for the final corner, not going to find it there. And Bobby Vakinov trying to pick up the pieces, but this race has sprung into life with just over 12 minutes to go.
Yeah, absolutely. These three still vying for that front spot. And like we saw there, Luke Mitchell trying his absolute best, trying to just find some space, some racing room, you could call it, to see if he can make a move on Callum Wilson. He's been leading this race ever since the first lap, and he's been doing a very good job of it as well. But Vakinov just there, sort of just off the tail end of it, obviously. He's just waiting to pick up those pieces, I would imagine, if these two really do start going at it hard. And I'd say he's in a pretty good position. He's got the best seat in the house, though, to watch the race unfold. And obviously he wants to, you know, make a move when he can. But, you know, at the moment, it's sort of settled things down in this middle part of the race. We're just waiting for things to, I guess, pick back up once again. And I'd imagine it will definitely happen in the last few laps. But Simon Trebek, I don't think quite got the message.
I think someone who hasn't quite got the message that he shouldn't be able to get into the reverse grid is Callum Cripps. He's up into P15 now, closed down a 6-second gap to Fides and Amos in double quick time. And with the speed that we've seen from him in the last few weeks, he'd be hard-pressed to say that he won't get himself into the top 12 once again. He's about 6 seconds off, but there is that gaggle of cars that we are looking at now, led by David Cervez, who could start fighting at any one moment. And if there can be a couple of astute moves from Callum Cripps, he could find himself into the back of this train in the not-too-distant future. So all is not lost for Callum Cripps for the time being, but as it stands, the championship margin between Mitchell and Cripps stands at 43. Which means that it is basically impossible for any kind of recovery from Callum Cripps in terms of the championship. But still a long way to go, still 10.5 minutes left in this race, and Luke Mitchell is by no means safe in his P2 as we continue on with lots of dust being kicked up there.
Yeah, that's one of those things about this circuit, actually. The grass, like I say, it's an old school circuit. The grass is right at the edge of the circuit in that aspect. And so if you do cut the corner ever so slightly, you know, within the rules, of course, you're allowed 2 wheels off the circuit and you're still deemed to be on it. You know, you can kick up a lot of dust. I noticed it earlier. I was sort of running around with a bit of AI. You can see it there again, to the dust being kicked up as 2 wheels run off it. And that can be quite off-putting if you're the car behind as well. Once again, you can see it, dust just kicking up. Particularly in some of these flat-out corners, you really do need to nail your turning in point, your braking points as well. It can just be that slight off-putting and potentially could cause a mistake.
It doesn't take much sometimes, especially in the high-stakes scenarios that we find ourselves in now. As we get towards the conclusion of the BTCC Championship, got very close between Luke Mitchell and Bobby Vakinov, as Mitchell again looking for the inside line. Is he going to be able to get it this time around? He's got just a little bit of an overlap on Callum Wilson. The only issue is he's not going to be able to get the exit that he desires to get a good run. The driver who did get a good run was Bobby Vakinov, but Vakinov is going to find himself on the outside line as they run their way down in towards the opening turn. It's Callum Wilson scarpering away from the duo as they work their way into this tight right-hander to start the lap, but Luke Mitchell has enough of an advantage to keep himself up in the top 2. Vakinov having to stay in P3 for the time being at least.
Yeah, they're sort of just all trying to suss each other out. Where are you weak? Where are you strong? Where can I maybe mount an attack? Luke Mitchell clearly seems to have a bit of an advantage through that final sort of flat-out section through turn 11 Waterfall, 12 Saxon Curve. He does seem to have a little bit of a better run than Wilson in front, and that's where you see him close up just that little bit more and potentially can mount an attack. He's closed up quite a bit here then through 7 and into 8, but I don't think there's really a way by. It's very much a single racing line through here. That's going to be your best bet in terms of keeping your pace high, but Luke Mitchell desperately trying to find any ground that he can to mount an attack, but that's a small mistake and that's going to cost him a little bit now and potentially open the door for Vakinov. But we look back, Axon, Kyle Larty and Semenga still having a good battle as well.
Yeah, we also wait to see what the reverse grid is going to be. Of course, these battles are going to be important, but is it going to be a battle for what could be a reverse grid pole position? Of course, they're all going to be in the reverse grid from 4th through 6th. That much we know. We just don't know whether Anton Semenga, if he finishes at the back of this train, will start in P1 or as far down as P7. So that's the intrigue that we are left with for the time being. Mitchell looking for a move on Callum Wilson again into turn 1, not being able to find anything there. Cripps made his way past Sam Battis in the last couple of laps, and he's now closing in on George Prieto. The issue for him is, I think P13 is going to be his cap here. I'm not too sure he's going to be able to catch P12.
No, I think you're spot on there with that. 6 seconds between Prieto and Pound currently. Cripps has still got a close 2.5 seconds to Prieto, and then another 6. I think you are right. I think his cap is going to be P13, which it still means he gets a few points, but not the sort of maximum he was looking for, because he was sort of almost race winner elect in a way, because he was right up at the sharp end with his teammate here, Callum Wilson, who is still leading this race, and definitely would have put Luke Mitchell, Bobby Vakanov up, run for their money, as well as Gaspar Marat. Both of those drivers all looking very quick. As we jump back here to Simon Trebek, P11, who's actually having to defend from the man I just mentioned, Gaspar Marat, and these guys are running nose to tail all the way through 7, 8, and now 9, 10. And towards 11, 12. 12's going to be a good chance to get by. That's the Saxon curve coming up now.
Yeah, let's see if there's any kind of move on for these guys down here towards the back of the field. Of course, got to be slightly wary if there's any kind of mistake, because they could still be in a reverse grid scenario. And so can't afford too many big mistakes as they work their way towards the final corner. Trebek, though, on the back of Mrak, who has been working his way through slowly but surely, would not mind a P9, even a P8 with Osborne not far up the road at all. Every point recovered. He's absolutely crucial as it stands. He's 51 points back from Luke Mitchell and will need to gain even more. Make that 50 as he overtakes David Zerwes to the inside at turn number 1. And Zerwes, no answer as they run their way through the opening corner.
Axon's gap between him and Kyan Larty also dropped to 0 then, I think, towards turn number 1. So those two still having a bit of a battle, as we are currently still riding on board here with the battle for P11. Simon Trebek, who's now being hounded by Pound behind in P12. Sorry, not Pound behind. Apologies. I'm getting it all sorts of wrong. Trebek is hounding David Zerwes. That's a bit more like it. Getting my drivers confused and mixed up there, but he's looking to try and make a move here on Zerwes. Gaspar Marat's just got past, and now there's an opportunity for him to follow through. It's just a matter of getting it right on the braking zone, and once again we come up to 12 where there is a chance, but we'll jump back to the leaders because they are still neck and neck.
Yeah, only 5 minutes to go as well as we get on towards lap 15 of this encounter. Mitchell trying to find a line down the inside. Nothing going on there for our championship leader, and he's going to have to tiptoe his way all the way around the outside. Going to do pretty much Swan Lake if he's going to get it all the way around the outside. Just about being covered off by Callum Wilson, who has been defending valiantly. It's completely fair to say really has been an impressive race from him. And I come bearing news, Ashley. We will have a top 12 reverse. We're having everybody we could have being reversed in this race. None of this top 6 malarkey that we've been having. Top 12 are all going to be reversed. And all of a sudden, Callum Cripps is in position to get reverse grid pole after making a couple of positions in the last couple of laps. I think in contact.
I was literally just, as you were saying that, I'm looking at the tower. Who's in 12th? And as that was being said, Callum Cripps has just got P12 from Prieto. So as it stands, and I don't think Cripps will be able to get any further, that massive gap is over 7 seconds. Cripps is going to be on reverse grid pole, so it gives him a definite shot at taking the second race win. But we still need to find out who's going to win this first one, because Callum Wilson absolutely putting on his best performance and showing us how to defend a race win here towards the final corner. Luke Mitchell finally finding some space then down the inside. Is this the chance for Luke Mitchell to finally take the lead of this race? Wilson goes wide into the gravel. Can Vakinov find a way through as well?
This is getting very tight down in towards turn number 1. Vakinov looking to go to the outside line. Back up the inside though from Callum Wilson. That's an aggressive move. It's too aggressive. He's off the road. He's in the gravel. And he'll drop down to P3. Kyan Larty will see will he? Yes, he will see a driver closer to him. He won't be seeing Anton Tomenga because Tomenga makes the same mistake.
What's happened to Alan Axon? He's in the pits. I was just wondering, where is Alan Axon gone? He's in 17th. I wonder what's gone on there. Either way, though, we're looking here at David Zerwes and I think it's Simon Trebek still having a battle for this P9 position. You've got Pound right behind them as well, trying to get in on some of the action in front, as Trebek just about managed to find a way through on Zerwes then for that P9 spot. There's a bit of action happening all the way up and down the grid now as we get into the closing moments of this race. Just over 2.5 minutes left.
Yeah, this really has come down to crunch time, isn't it? This has been a great ending to the opening encounter of the evening, and a crucial one as well for championship pictures up and down the field. Great for Anton Tomenga to get himself in the top 5 for the time being, with a disastrous moment in front of Axon wherever it was, dropping him down the order. Rack up to P7 as well. Really is showing that he has some impressive recovery skills, and he is gaining even more points to his cause, even if Luke Mitchell is gaining pretty much everything he can with the win and the fastest lap, not pole though, in this race. Osborne, Trebek and Zoas as well on the top 10. Cripps, though, surely going to be the happiest man out of all when he realises that he's going to be on a reverse grid pole, because it all looked lost this evening. But being thrown that bone really could save not just his evening, but maybe his championship challenge as well.
Well, it's interesting because if Luke Mitchell obviously wins this race, chances are he's gaining a bit of a buffer over Vakinov now. So I think it could be his to lose at this point. He's going to be exactly where Cripps is now, so he's going to obviously be on that reverse end of the reverse grid pole. So he's then going to have to fight his way through the field, and that can sometimes get messy, particularly when trying to make moves. And we've seen at this circuit how easy it is to just slightly tag your rival, and across your nose they go, and that's it. You know, race somewhat over. You know, it's been impressive stuff from Marak. He's currently 7th, and Cripps, who have been fighting their way back through. And Cripps, obviously, you know, I'm so glad he didn't give up, because it's now going to bear some fruit for him, because he's got that reverse grid pole. I can't see him, you know, losing it at this point unless he really does make a hash of it.
Yeah, it would be impressive at this stage, but he's got a 43-point lead as it stands. They'll make their way to the final corner now. One more tour of the circuit. Luke Mitchell and Bobby Vakinov are dueling it out for the win. Vakinov started in P6, Mitchell started in P4. Not necessarily where we expected them to be at the start of the final lap, especially with absolutely nobody in sight really for this battle. But Mitchell leads us through turn number 1. Vakinov just in behind, but it looks like Mitchell has covered off the most dangerous overtaking spot for the final time.
Well, you say that. I think another good chance is down at that turn 12, but Vakinov's going to really need a good and impressive run through the sort of 7, 8, 9 complex, 10, 11, if he wants a chance of making a move at the Saxon curve. And like I say, I will mention it again, it is all about that momentum. It starts here when you begin turning really to the left, and if you can keep your speed up, that is going to be crucial, because you will gain a nice big advantage over your rival, using as much of the circuit as he can to really open it up for him. Now through 9, this little kink as you get to 10, and this could be a chance for Vakinov. He's having a little look at it. That's wide for Mitchell then. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, there was definite contact there between the two of them. Vakinov looked like he hit the rear of Luke Mitchell and it forced Luke Mitchell wide. Vakinov now to the inside line at the penultimate turn. He's going to hold that line, but Mitchell, is he going to try it at the final corner? Surely he got to go for it. Maybe he'll think more of the championship picture. He's looking up the inside. He's not going to have enough. And Bobby Vakinov is going to come around the final corner. He started in P6. He's led 3 corners, but it's the 3 at the end. And Vakinov wins here at the Sachsenring. And what a win it is. His first of this season. We'll have to see what is said about that by Luke Mitchell though, because there was definite contact with Mitchell in front, and in the end Vakinov found a way through with a little bit of contact between the two of them. Wilson P3 after that mistake at Tumman a few laps ago, but Kaya Narty and Tomenga 4th and 5th, great results for them. Shout out to Gasparak, top 7 after being at the back of the field on lap 1, and Callum Cripps, who will make up the 12th and final place of the drivers who will be part of the reverse grid. Cripps is going to start on pole.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be quite happy with that, I think, knowing that he's going to get that reverse grid pole. He fought back for something, at least, is probably what's going on in his mind, and hopefully he can stay at the front then for the second race and pick up maximum points. He's just got to hope that Luke Mitchell won't be doing the same, but, you know, Luke Mitchell, he's been so good this season, consistent. We've said it time and time again. He really is a force to be reckoned with. That's why he's leading the championship, and what a great result for him as well here in second. And Vakinov, well, I think that's his first win of the season. Fair play to him.
It is indeed, and it moves him up into P4 in the championship with Alan Axton's difficulties. But here are the race results in the opening affair of the evening. It's probably backing off after 18 laps, flying the checkered flag first ahead of championship leader Luke Mitchell, who surely has one hand on the title now. 3 rounds remaining, 40-point advantage. Callum Wilson third ahead of Ollie Kai and Larty, who just missed out on the podium. Anton Temenga finished in the top 5 for the first time for him since all the way back at Imola, where he finished P2. Antonis Paparanopoulos recovered from the back of the field to P6, with Gasper Mrak recovering from the back of the field on the exit of turn 3 to P7 at the end. Osborne, Trebek and David Zerwers ran out the top 10. They're going to start in 5th, 4th and 3rd. The top 2 on the grid will be John Pound and Callum Cripps. Callum Cripps obviously taking pole after he was involved with a little bit of contact with Gasper Mrak on the opening lap, and the championship contender, who has been absolutely flying of late, could only get to oh my word, P12, I'm sorry. I think we've all just seen that behind the race results screen. Yaroslav Fides, George Prieto and Sam Butters round out our top 15, with Paul Amos and Alan Laxon outside the points. I don't quite know what I've seen. If Ashley didn't see it, Ashley, I encourage you to go back and watch it, and I encourage all of you to go back and watch me go through those results to look in the background. Whilst you do that, though, you won't miss anything, because we'll have a short break. We're back in a couple of minutes' time for race 2. Going to be a crucial one for the championship. Luke Mitchell could be the champion in about half an hour's time. Welcome back then, everybody here to the Sachsenring for the second race of the evening in the penultimate round of the T6TC Championship here on rFactor 2, brought to you by T6 Motorsport. Hello to everybody on the T6 Motorsport YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. This should be another cracker of a race, of course, thanks to our sponsors at Phoenix Sim Racing and, of course, at Nerd PC, who make these broadcasts and some of the prizes we're going to be handing out next week. Very much possible. My name is still Darragh Thacker, joined still by Ashley Denman. Ashley, so we're into race 2 now. This should be an exciting affair. Reverse grid means that Callum Cripps is back on pole, and he really has to hope for a bit of misfortune for Luke Mitchell, because the championship gap coming into this race is 40 points, which really means if Luke Mitchell finishes anywhere near Callum Cripps, it's almost going to be curtains before the final round.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that lovely reintroduction there, Darragh. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, my name won't change again. But yeah, no, you are right. Absolutely spot on with what you're saying. It really is looking for Callum Cripps needing to sweep up here and take that top spot, and maybe looking for a little bit of misfortune then for Luke Mitchell. Of course, nobody wants to wish it upon your rivals. You really want to just do it on outright pace, but sometimes, if the racing gods favour you in one way and maybe a different driver another, it doesn't hurt to think about it in that sort of aspect. So no, Callum Cripps with all the work to do, and Luke Mitchell just needing to make sure he can just progressively work through the pack a little bit. But maybe I want to put a question to you, Darragh. I mean, two actually. First of all, who do you think is going to do it in this race number 2? And second, how are we going to work out who we can crown the Saxon King?
Firstly, it's going to be Callum Cripps. Secondly, I don't know. We're going to have to work that out, I think, over the next half an hour or so. We're going to have to do it, aren't we, before the end of the evening. Before I forget, because, I'm not known to forget, let's bring up the grid. It's almost like there was a bit of telepathy there between me and Rich. Callum Cripps and John Pound are going to be starting on the front row of the grid after their results in race number 1. And they've got another couple of drivers alongside them. Jordan Osborne and Gas Maraka, 5th and 6th. They will be starting just in behind Antonius Paparanopoulos and, of course, John Pound, who was 2nd, wasn't he? Ollie Kayalati and Callum Wilson, 9th and 10th. Luke Mitchell and Bobby Vakinov in 11th and 12th. They're behind Paparanopoulos and Anton Temenga, as Temenga and Paparanopoulos on row 3, with Yaroslav Faiz, George Brietto, Sam Butters and Paul Amos inside the top 17. Just the one more driver to come across, and it will be Alan Axon, who will be starting P17 and last. I'm glad that I made that as easy as could be for the grid. I hope everybody got that. Apologise if it was a little bit messy there, but we're ready to get going now, Ashley. And Cripps really should have quite a good advantage with a gulf of cars between himself and championship rival Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely. You're quite right. I'll leave it to you though, Darragh, because we're about to go green here for race number 2. You just got to make sure that Callum Cripps gets away from the line nice and cleanly.
Yeah, of course, he had those issues with Gasper Rack in race number 1, but ready to go for race number 2. It could be a championship winning 25 minutes or so for Luke Mitchell. He's going to have to recover from P11 though, as Cripps gets us going here for round 2 at the Sachsenring. It's a good start though, in behind. Gasper Rack up the inside, making 1-2 positions, as Cripps will cover off John Pound as they make their way in towards turn number 1. Rack going from 6th to 3rd, bit wide from David Zerwes as he tries to make up positions in the opening turn, but Rack is up from 6th to 3rd. Great start from him. Callum Wilson, the pole sitter in race number 1, from 10th to 5th, but those two really are the biggest gainers in the pack. Mitchell gaining the spot on Anton Temenga further back, but really importantly, Callum Cripps has got away out in front, and that gap to John Pound is growing. The issue for Cripps though is that Brack is nearly already on his tail.
The other good starter there I'm going to mention is his teammate Callum Wilson. He's up into 5th, gained 5 positions from starting in 10th. And crucially, I was going to mention just before we got going, but I didn't quite have the time. He could be quite pivotal here, because if Luke Mitchell does come up behind him, we saw how well he can defend, and he could be a little bit of a barrier to him and his teammate Callum Cripps. So, helping Luke Mitchell there. That's a big off though from Pound. Spinning round, make sure you hold the brakes and don't come into contact with anyone else. I think we just about got away with that, or maybe not.
No, I think Yaroslav Faiz may have got caught up in all of that as well, or maybe it was just George Prieto who's gone off the road. Wide moment as well from, I think that was Paparanopoulos, as he has under pressure from Jordan Osborne in towards the final turn. Still a yellow flag out as we work our way through, but everybody who can see on the ending map is moving up towards turn 1 for the second time. After a frantic opening lap, Mitchell is up to 8th. Important news for him. Mrak, though, chasing after Callum Cripps in the lead of the race. Further back, they're side by side with Vakinov. Race 1 winner, trying to make some moves. He's getting past not just 1 but 2 to Mengram and Zerwes in his dust.
Nice move there from Vakinov. Late on the brakes, got it tucked into the apex and clipped it rather nicely. He's back on the tail then of Luke Mitchell for that 8th position. Probably going to try and follow him through as best he can, but he has got a few good drivers. Not to say that any of them are bad. They're all much better than myself. But, you know, a good few of those championships that are contenders you would have considered earlier on. You know, Kaya Marti, Paparanopoulos in front of Luke Mitchell as well. They've all got really good pace under them, and so that's going to be a little bit trickier for Luke Mitchell to work his way through. But P8 from his starting grid, he's gained those places and done them very neat and tidy indeed. And he's looking strong here still, which is the key thing for him.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, important. Luke Mitchell, though, going a little bit wide off the circuit. Doesn't look too comfortable there for the championship leader running his way through. As it stands, no championship will be won tonight, with Callum Cripps picking up not just the 20 points for the win, but also the point for fastest lap as well, as Temenga keeps himself ahead of Zerwes and Axon, who's fighting his way back through the field. Axon, who was running inside the top 5, but had the issue towards the end of race number 1, started at the back of the field, and is trying to recover to the top 10 at least, and he's within touching distance but not making any moves for the time being. Inside line further up from Kai and Larty, he's dispatching Osborne for P6.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I'm just looking at Callum Cripps. He's got 2.5 second gap back to Mrak. His teammate Wilson, the other Callum, he's right up on the tail of Mrak. That's currently what we're watching here, the battle for P2. If he can get past Gaspar Mrak, in terms of the team standings, the two Callums there are leading the way in that front. I think if they do finish 1 and 2 here, they're pretty much going to be untouchable and will pretty much wrap that up. But they've still got to finish this race, and still finishing strong as well, as Luke Mitchell then getting very, very close to the back there of Osborne's car. Potentially going to see a move here through sort of 9, 10, 11, and I reckon the best chance then is that heavy braking zone of turn number 12, the Saxon curve, as it's a little bit wide again out of that kick of 10, through 11, waterfall corner, and now towards that turn number 12, as I said earlier. Good chance to overtake, but it's too far back.
Actually a waterfall there. It's quite nice.
But it's named after it. The way it drops. No.
Very disappointing, actually. I really was expecting there to be a waterfall. Anyway, I'm getting started. It's not like O'Rooney, but I've actually got, you know, O'Rooney. Anyway, back to the action before I get bogged down in my own self-annoyance. But down into turn 1 we go again. Luke Mitchell right on the back of Jordan Osborne and Kai Larty once again, but no move happening for the championship leader. For the time being, this is a tightly lit train though, as they work their way through this opening sector. The only issue is you're not going to be making moves in this opening sector unless something absolutely catastrophic happens to one of your rivals.
Yeah, you're quite right. I think they've sort of learned a little bit from race number 1 here, because they are all running it a little bit more calmly than they did in race number 1, where I think we were a bit more frantic at the start, the opening few laps. Whereas here it does seem a little bit more methodical. But looking at Paparanopoulos here, currently P5th. He's climbed 2 positions from his starting block, and he's currently on the back of Simon Trebek. Trebek's having a very good race here indeed. Of course, he had that reverse grid helping him out for race number 2 here, but he's holding P4 here on his own quite comfortably by the seams of things. I say comfortably, he's under a bit of pressure, but he seems to be holding his own, which is key for him. And yeah, with the likes of Paparanopoulos behind, we know he's got pace, he's got the talent as well, so I would imagine he's getting a little bit worried, but he's holding steady.
Yeah, he's holding where he is for the time being, but oh, a good change. Kai Larty making a move, or trying to defend actually, from Jordan Osborne as they make their way through out towards the line once again. Luke Mitchell's going to say thank you very much for fighting, gentlemen. I'll pick my way through as well. Further up in front though, Callum Wilson's going for Gaspar Mrak for P2. I think Wilson's been able to pull that one off as Mitchell stays behind Kai Larty. You can see that in the background, but in the foreground, there you go. Callum Wilson is through on Gaspar Mrak and recovering brilliantly. Up 8 positions, started in P10 after finishing in P3, but really making a charge to try and get towards the front, and Callum Cripps once again in this race.
Yeah, so I think that kind of shows with Wilson there what Cripps could have done if race one turned out for the better for him, because, you know, if Wilson can make it through those almost 8 positions up from 10, I can't imagine why Cripps couldn't do the same. He absolutely could. In my book, we've seen him do it, you know, time and time again over these last few rounds. Wins the first race, comes through, practically wins the second, if not does win it. And so it's a real shame for Cripps, because it really would have made this championship, I think, a bit more exciting going into the final round. But Luke Mitchell's done what he's needed to do. He's up into 7th now after that sort of failed overtake attempt from Osborne, sort of costing him really overall, because he's dropped behind Luke Mitchell now, and now behind Vakinov as well, as they both go wide into the gravel then at the exit of Saxon Curve. That's going to give them a little bit of something to think about as they make their way through turn 13 then. But I think they're just about going to get away with it. Osborne, though, still fighting here with Zerwes as well, as they're going to get a bit of a drag race down towards turn number 1.
Yeah, Zoe's on the inside. Can he keep this one going? Yes, he can. Jordan Osborne under pressure for P10 as they run their way through, as Kai and Larty and Vakinov fight their way through the corner as well. I think Kai and Larty will just about hold it ahead of Vakinov. Indeed, he will. And just behind, we are still seeing Zerwes fight with Jordan Osborne. Zerwes, though, enjoy on the inside line. I mean, there's no waterfall down there at turn 10, which is right next to the start-finish straight. But I think the Noah's Ark formation that the guys were in certainly were looking for a little bit of water to make that pun work. But anyway, Kai Larty is going to stay where he is, ahead of Bobby Vakinov, who is really trying to apply some pressure. Of course, all of these drivers making positions through the field after they were part of the reverse grid. A couple of slower drivers in front of him that have been dispatched. But at the same time, Kai Larty is not making the same kind of progress that Luke Mitchell has, and he's coming under pressure because of it.
Absolutely. Here they go then through that turn number 11 waterfall corner. I could bore you with why it's called that, but effectively it's the motorbike's fault if you want to give it a reason. As they now get to the Saxon Curve in turn number 12, quick left-hander, really want to commit to it to get the maximum out of it. And then we've got the final corner, turn 13. Things stay as they are then. Kai Larty still 7th, fending from Vakinov behind in 8th, and Temenga just sort of watching on from 9th, making sure he's there to pick up the pieces should anything go awry. As we jump forward to Paparanopoulos, this is a good chance then for P4. He's going to have to go the long way round though into turn number 1, Coca-Cola curve. That's going to come back to him though with an advantage for the second corner here, but then he's going to sweep back once again to Trebek. Turn number 3, there's still going to be side-by-side contact. Door banging through Castro Omega, and then up towards the rise of 4, 5 and 6, and they're still going to be going at it.
Yeah, Papadopoulos looking for the line, and there's not really any room down there, and he eventually found that out with Trebek coming across the nose, but Trebek holding firm in P4 for the time being, after that being where he started. Only Trebek, Vakinov now after he's lost all those positions, and Callum Cripps are in the positions that they started in, just to show how much this grid has been shaken up thanks to the reverse grid nature of this second part of the evening. But Papadopoulos not giving this one up at all. Issue is that Luke Mitchell is arriving on the scene and arriving fast, and he wouldn't mind a top 5 as he looks to close in on a championship this evening.
Yeah, he certainly wouldn't mind that indeed. It would certainly get his one of his hands, I feel, on that championship trophy that we'll get to at the end of the season. But I think Cripps has obviously done well enough to take it to the final round of Brands Hatches. There goes Paparanopoulos up the inside then. Easy as you like on Simon Trebek, and even Luke Mitchell's going to get a good drag out of the final corner to try and fight then for that position as well. It's Paparanopoulos, it's Mitchell, it's Trebek. They're going to go 3 wide though down towards turn number 1. Who's going to come out on top? They're deep. Inside is Luke Mitchell. They've done the up and under. They're still side by side through turn 2. Now coming up to turn number 3. Paparanopoulos just about edging out in front. Slams the door shut in Luke Mitchell's face and just about fends him off. And Simon Trebek losing 2 positions there. But Luke Mitchell through and Paparanopoulos still holding fast in 4th.
Yeah, they've been an absolutely crazy part of the race, isn't it? Absolutely great to see all of these guys fighting over some really big points, not just for the overall championship, but for each driver's individual championship ambitions as well. So really good to see Paparanopoulos defending. Big slide though as he runs his way through all of the left hand, as Luke Mitchell is going to get ever closer as they come through turn 9, through turn 10, up towards turn 11 now. So Mitchell all on the rear end of Paparanopoulos, and Mitchell is going to be looking for that P4, and he is, if not knocking on the door, absolutely banging on it now.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to break in and enter, but he's going to do it within the confines of the rules, as that's wide from Papadopoulos. That's going to allow the door to be wide open then for Luke Mitchell up the inside of the final corner. It couldn't get much easier for him to take P4 there, but in that mistake, Papadopoulos is having to look in his rearview mirrors, or now he's probably turning his head left, because Simon Trebek is side by side of him through towards turn number 1 they go. That's a very tight line from Papadopoulos, very defensive indeed, and just about gets it stopped to keep Trebek behind for the time being.
This is really an important stage of the race if you're Luke Mitchell, and also if you're Simon Trebek. Of course, Trebek has had a decent season, consistent enough, but he's not been here at Istanbul Park. He got a grand total of -2 points back at Imola, so he's not necessarily had the best run of results. He's P10 in the championship and heavily consolidating that for the time being, but he would love, I'm sure, an inaugural 10, or a third top 5 of the season after he got a double back at Donny. So we'll see what he can do, but it's looking difficult with the likes of Mitchell and Papadopoulos fighting as hard as they are in front. Morak and Wilson taking some interesting lines as they make their way through 11. It's not going to be helping them out too much in their ambitions to catch Callum Cripps. We're only halfway through this race. This race number 2, and Callum Cripps has already pulled out a 5-second advantage, which doesn't sound like a lot, but really it is quite a chunk if you're going to be able to catch that.
Yeah, in these cars, it is quite a big mountain to climb. It's 5 seconds, even 2 seconds is sometimes almost impossible to bring it down. You really do need a difference in pace in terms of the talent and the skill these drivers bring to the table, and that pace deficit is obviously what ultimately gives you the differences in times. But yeah, 5 seconds for Cripps out front from his teammate, who we saw in race number 1 was absolutely on it until that slight contact with one of the other drivers. Clearly they're both very, very quick round here, and I don't see them catching up to Cripps. I think he's pretty much got a hand on the race win here already, but famous last words from the commentator as always. I hope it doesn't go wrong for him now. He's doing very well indeed. But here we are with Alan Axel then in a bit of a battle and getting a little bit squirrely through that middle sector. 5, 6 and now 7, probably one of the trickiest corners. You can see there you sort of have to progressively get on the power, and you're almost dancing a little bit on your pedals to try and find your way through, but he's managed to stay here in 9th, and pretty strong at the moment still.
Yeah, excellent. Well, he's gained his way through the field, actually. He's got a run on the back of Kayan Lati to get himself up into P8 after starting right at the back of the field. Not quite the electric start that we took from Papadopoulos to go from 17th to 8th in the opening sector, but he's looking to go around the outside of Kayan Lati to get himself into the top 8 after the first half of the race. Got to have a little bit more in the tank if he wants to make this one stick, though, because it's not done by any stretch of the imagination. Having to tiptoe his way around, it's not going to work out there, and a bad run is going to mean that the two behind Osborne and Serwes may find themselves climbing on the back of him before they get into turn 1. But I think we're just going to see this battle too wide for P10 as we run in towards this tricky braking zone at the opening corner. Serwes has the inside done, Osborne's on the outside, not an easy place to be, and showing exactly why. Losing out there in Serwes, still in P10.
Yeah, so no, so he got wide effectively at the exit of turn 13, the final corner, and that corner you very much need to be on one racing line, because if you go off it you do lose out quite a bit. We saw there he almost came under pressure from the guys behind him, but he's still there in 9th, so fair play, and he is right up on Kyle Larty's rear bumper as we jump forward to these two battling it for P2 in this race. That's Callum Wilson and Gaspar Morak. Wilson having to do his best defence once again for the second race in a row, but absolutely putting on a good show of it, and Gaspar Morak trying to sort of reconcile, what's the word, Darragh, I'm looking for? He's trying to recuperate, there we go, some lost points that he feels should have been up for grabs in race number 1, but they're looking pretty neck and neck. And just keep a look at the background there's Luke Mitchell slowly creeping in.
And the problem for Gaspar Morak at the moment is if he finishes, or if the race finishes as it is, then he will be out of championship contention going into the final round of Brands Hatch, and it will only be battle between Luke Mitchell and Callum Cripps as it stands. It could all change, of course, in the final 9 minutes. We saw a crazy last 10 minutes in race number 1, but I think it's a little bit more sedate at the front for the time being. The gaps are a little bit wider. It's not sedate, though, back here for P8 and P9. It's not Temengo, I'm sorry. It's Kyan Larty defending his position to Alan Axon in Axon's Unlimited Esports car. Nothing going through turn 2 and 3, but going wide is Temengo. I've almost cursed him without intending to. He's gone wide at turn number 3. He'll come out back onto the circuit ahead of this little group of cars. But Temenga having some issues. Kyan Larty and Axon now battling with him for B7.
Yeah, it's easy to do there as well. It's not really an obvious braking zone through those corners, particularly 2 onto 3. You kind of have to feel it really all the way around and sort of hope that the car sticks in where you're putting it, and really just hope for the best. What I found earlier on myself anyway. So no, well held to keep it on the circuit. It's easy to run wide at a lot of these corners, and the gravel at that point is very, very close to the racing edge. So no, he's still in P7 for the time being, but he's now going to come increasingly a bit more under pressure from Kyan Larty and his teammate behind. But slightly further back then here, we've got Zerwes, Osborne and Vakinov. I'm quite surprised Vakinov struggled to make his way through, particularly after he won the first race. Clearly has some pace in that car, but can't seem to find a way past these guys.
Yeah, he had a couple of little moments over about 5 laps ago or so, and I was had to catch back up to this train, which is why he's down in P12, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts to try and pull his way through. The battling between Kyan Larty and Axon has really dragged everybody else in, and the fact that Temenga isn't going maybe as fast as he was hoping to isn't helping in that either. Murat getting all out of shape on the rear end of Callum Wilson, and Luke Mitchell is gaining ever closer with about 4.5 laps of this race left to run, you would imagine, after we finished 18 laps in race number 1. Actually, that means that we've got 5.5 laps, even longer than Luke Mitchell to get closer. It looks like he's faster, but he just can't make use of that for the time being.
No, we saw this. It's almost a carbon copy of race number 1. It's just not for the win itself. Callum Wilson, he really knows where to put that car, doesn't he? He's absolutely defending like his life depends on it. But oh, that's going to be a dive from Murat down the inside of Saxon curb. He got it stopped as well. Wasn't expecting that. It seemed like he's round the front. He's got off. He's into the wall.
Oh, massive contact between Wilson and Murat on seemingly the wrong line. There was contact between the two drivers. Got to be careful, you can't rejoin like that, Gasper. Oh, that was not the best way to rejoin a circuit by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm not surprised if he's not particularly happy, and that car going to have to come down pit lane. And sadly for Gas Murat, that is championship run for him. He will not be able to take a title. He's even going to start coming under pressure, I think, from the likes of Bobby Vakinov and Alan Axon for P3 in the championship.
I think it's got a bit to his head almost in a way, and it's such a shame. I wouldn't even put that down as his fault either. He got the move done ever so nicely. It took me by surprise, as you could, I'm sure, hear, and I thought he had it sewn up, but it's just one of those things. It's a slight bit of contact, and he's just gone round the nose of Wilson. It is such a shame, because he really did put on such a good performance here in race number 2, and what a move it was for it as well, but didn't pay off, and I'm sad to see him. He's now in the pits and probably retiring that car, but the action still goes on, because the race is not over just yet. We've got just over 5 minutes left now in this race, around about 4 laps. We are riding on board here then with Jordan Osborne for P10. He's battling with David Zerwes and Bobby Vakinov for P9.
Yeah, this is really going to come down to the wire. Of course, another point also for these guys to fight for after what we've seen happen to Gasper Murat in the end. I think he will be, I mean, he's going to be out of the points. Murat's not going to be scoring, whether he decides to come out of the pit lane or not to the end of this race, and that really chucks him in. It means he's only 10 points clear of Alan Axel in 5th in the championship as things stand. It might get a little bit worse, especially when you've got Osborne and Vakinov fighting. Vakinov, one of those drivers chasing him for P3 in the championship, and Vakinov wouldn't mind an extra couple of spots as he's on the back of this battle for P9. Zerwes, he went deep at turn 1 in race 1. He's gone a little bit deep again in race 2, but not deep enough to lose the position to Vakinov, but he has lost it to Jordan Osborne, and Osborne now back up into P9. David Zerwes with a little bit more work to do.
Zerwa's there, what's happening in that corner, why he's heading wide, he's gone for that really tight line to defend, but that, like I mentioned in qualifying, that bump on the apex, it sends the car, it pushes it wide, you get a lot of understeer when you jump over it like that at such a tight angle, and that's why he's heading wide in that corner. But back to the action itself, and less about what's going on with David Zerwes. This is Luke Mitchell, who's obviously caught up in all of the drama, and this is going to be a carbon copy of what happened in race number 1, because Callum Wilson is defending from Luke Mitchell down towards Saxon Curve after Waterfall. And that's Mitchell having to maybe think about where to put and place that car, because Wilson going to be defending. He's going to be defending once again here for the final corner, and Luke Mitchell still got it all to do.
And every single point now for Callum Cripps is crucial. Mitchell, well, he cannot afford Mitchell to get his way up into P2, because that gap could therefore be up to 38 points between our two championship contenders going into the final race of the season. Outside line for Luke Mitchell into turn 1. Can he swoop his way through? He's looking like he's got enough of an overlap to maybe have a line into turn 2, but not quite. Callum Wilson will be able to hold across that line and stay in front for the time being. Of course, they've got a big gap back to Simon Trebek, but that could all diminish pretty quickly if these two start fighting too hard. 2.5 laps to go, though. Still more than enough time for Mitchell to have to move.
Yeah, absolutely is, and I can tell you now though, Wilson is going to, one, maybe try and back Mitchell up a little bit here, but two, you know, he's probably going to defend it with every ounce of strength he has, because the Cripps and Wilson, they are teammates in this championship, and if Wilson can help him in any way, shape or form, I can probably bet that he is going to do so. So we're going to watch this defence probably right up until the very death, as that's wide there though from Luke Mitchell. That's a small mistake, really trying to get on the power early then out of turn number 10 to see if he can get a run. So it's not going to happen on this occasion now, because with that small error, you can see there it cost you about half a second.
Yeah, small margins, or fine margins I could say, could be really quite significant in races such as this, and in championships such as this, where little bits of contact, where we saw Callum Cripps and Gasper Morat come together. Realistically, it's going to take them both out of a meaningful championship contention this evening. Morat absolutely out of contention. Cripps, along with that, needs a miracle next week. Mitchell is hoping to make it even more difficult for his rival Cripps as he walks around the outside at turn 1 once again. He's got far more of an overlap. He's got the position, he's got the inside line at turn 2, and Luke Mitchell on a charge into P2. And can he hold on to the end? If he can, he's going to take home a 37-point lead into the final round, with only 44 points, I should say, on the table.
Yeah, that's pretty much done and dusted if that is the case, but you know, it's not completely out of the question. We'll see how it transitions in Brands Hatch, but you can see here, look, Luke Mitchell's already pulling away from Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson clearly not able to match the pace of Luke Mitchell. This track is a tyre killer. I wonder if that is something that has been going on here with some of these drivers sort of struggling to maintain the health and the grip in those tyres that they have on the car, and Mitchell obviously able to do it very well indeed. Once again though, goes wide at the exit of 10. That's rather interesting. Clearly trying to push the boundaries as much as he can, even slightly out of it, but still on the road and still got the move done legit into turn 1. And I will say, what a fantastic move it was as well.
There's been some real battling. I was just about to mention here, back here in this battle, the likes of Kayanlati, Papanopoulos, Temenga, Axon have really been going at it over the last few laps. And here's an inside move for Al Axon and his teammate Anton Temenga. Signed, sealed, delivered. He won't be having to go to the post office to collect that one, because he's got it pretty much instantly. He's up past his teammate, and he is on a charge. An extra point or two for him could be crucial. He's now riding to the back of Bobby Vakinov for P4 in the championship.
Yeah, he must have paid for that one-day delivery, because yeah, he absolutely got it there and then. And he's already right up to the back of Papanopoulos. This is the final lap of this race, so if you want to make a move, now's your chance, because by the time you see the start-finish line, it'll be the checkered flag as well. So Axon trying to find another position here for P6. He's climbed 10 already from the back of the field after the first race. Can he find one more in this final lap?
See as we run our way through turn number, well, count it on your fingers, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. A little bit wide from Kyle Marty, just up in front as Axon will look for the move. Not going to be able to get it though, as they make their way through into... Actually, no, sorry, he's going to be able to nick it. I got confused with the liveries there. Papadopoulos not able to hold him back, and Axon yet another spot. He's not wide though, and off the road. That's not where he needs to be, and this battle will continue on. Meanwhile, Callum Cripps will come to the line and take yet another victory in what could be a futile attempt to keep his championship hopes alive, because it will be Luke Mitchell coming home in second. Callum Wilson will be third, but the real question is who is going to finish where at the back end of the top 10. Axon looks like he's going to hold it ahead of Papadopoulos, but the likes of Temenga and Osborne, they're going to be fighting side by side. There is Callum Wilson, there is Rebecca Kayanlati coming through. Indeed it is Axon, then Papadopoulos, Temenga, and just about Osborne rounding out our top 9. Vakinov just about gets inside the top 10 at the end. But my, what a dramatic end to the race, and real importance for the championship for the likes of Axon and Vakinov to pick up those extra couple of points.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a crucial, pivotal point in this championship. I mean, it feels like it's been a bit like that every single week. We go to race 1, race 2, constantly changing. I mean, that's what brings excitement to this sort of thing as well, as we get the last few drivers coming across the line. That's Amos, and then Prieto. He's in the pits already, so I think he may even be already have finished the previous time by. But all the drivers across the line, and yeah, big ramifications for this championship, particularly those slightly further down. But here we are, Darragh, race over, Callum Cripps at the top.
Not for the first time. Frankly, I mean, we're becoming used to it a little bit now. It is now a run of 7 wins in 9 races, an incredible run. It just feels like it may just come up a little bit too short, because Luke Mitchell is there, and he is there all the time. So we'll have to see if he can pull it off next week, and I think he'd be a brave man to bet against him. Callum Wilson did all he could for his teammate, but he finished down in P3, a couple of P3s tonight after pole and a fastest lap, I believe. In this race, we'll see him pick up a total of 32 points, which is absolutely not something to shake a stick at. We've got Simon Trebek and Ollie Kayanlati 4th and 5th. Good results for them to get themselves in the top 5, with Axon recovering to P6, Papadopoulos in P7, Temenga, Osborne and Bobby Vakinov rounding out our top 10. It was David Zoes and Sam Butters in 11th and 12th. John Pound, Paul Amos and George Prieto rounded out the points, finishing positions. Yaroslav Fies was 16th, and no finish in the end for Gasper Mrak. But I think we can only summarise this, actually, as A, an incredible evening's worth of racing, but B, dreamland and a great scenario for Luke Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be ecstatic with how those results played out for him and his championship. So he'll be on a high, you would imagine, coming to Brands Hatch next week for the final round of the season. He's basically got a hand on the trophy already. I think he only needs to outscore Wilson by 6 points, or maybe not even have to do that in order to win this championship. So fair play to him. He definitely is deserving of it. And I also will mention the teams championship, Darragh, because you know, I think we've missed a little bit tonight. But big points for Cripps and Wilson, obviously, and they are leading that championship. I think Trebek and Axon, though, with their strong finishes as well, just about keep that teams championship alive. But I think the rest of them are kind of out of it. Looking at the points tally itself, it's hard to judge, though, when you have 2 races and 2 drivers all tallying up together. But other than that, it is also going to go down to the final race.
Is, and not just for the championship, but also importantly for positions inside the top 5. We're going to get into the details of the prizes next week. You won't want to miss it, but provisionally, and I say this with a big asterisk because we have seen post-race penalties so far this season, provisionally Luke Mitchell will lead the championship by 37 points ahead of Callum Cripps going into Brands Hatch next week. They are the only 2 that are within a chance of winning it, because Gasper Mrak is too far back from Luke Mitchell. Gasper Mrak, though, only has a 7-point advantage to Bobby Vakinov and only an 8-point advantage to Alan Axon in that battle for P3. We've also got Papadopoulos and Kayanlati, who could also finish inside that top 5, and I think he also technically, Anton Temenga could as well. So there is a lot to decide in the next couple of races, and of course they will be happening next week right here, same place, same time on the T6 Motorsports channel. Thanks to everybody for tuning in to what has been a great evening's worth of racing. Thanks to our sponsors, of course, at Phoenix and Racing and at Nerd PC, and my thanks particularly to you, Ashley, for joining me this evening. Cannot wait for us to get next week underway. We'll see you then, though. 7 days time, championship finale is going to come down to Brands. We'll see you there.